Hello, this is Fullmasta from L2P TV, and today we're going to go over a short walkthrough about some basic editing tools and some other important things you should know about. Though this is more of a guide for those who have never touched editing software before, and I'll show you a few things that can make things look clean and professional. First, you have to pick an editing program. The two main ones are Adobe Premiere and Sony Vegas. You can use other things like Windows Media Maker and whatnot, but you're really not going to have as good as results as you can with these. Adobe Premiere is a great tool for creating new content. There's a ton of settings, there's a bunch of plugins. It's really amazing. Sony Vegas is really smooth, really easy to work with. It's great for editing existing content. So that's my view on it. Premiere is more for making your own stuff out of nothing, and Sony is more for editing things with ease. But you can use either one, and you can figure out what I do here and exchange it between, multiple programs. Okay, first we have your video properties and rendering options. They kind of go together, so even though we're not rendering, we're going to cover them at once. So first, go down to your properties. Now here's where you decide how big you want your project to be, your width, your height, your aspect ratio, your frames per second. Now you want to remember all these because you're going to need to use those same values again. Now there's a bunch of other settings that you can toy with. The only things that really matter is you turn your rendering quality up to best, and you go over to audio, and also make sure the resample and stretch is best. And again, you can tweak all these options to however you like. So once you have everything the way you like it, everything's set to best, you click Start All New Projects with these settings. Once you're all good, everything will open like that from now on. Hit Apply, go OK, and you're all set for those. After that, let's go up to Render As. Now, where you want to save it, what you want to name it, all that stuff pops up, and then there's a bunch of file types. Now, there's a lot you can pick from. I like to use Sony AVC, so take that. Now, over here, see how there's templates and stuff? None of them really matter. Just click Custom, regardless of what this says. And this describes your width and your height. So, again, you're trying to match it to whatever you had before. You want your frame rate to be the same of what you had before. You want your aspect ratio to be the same. You can tweak the bitrate whatever you want. 1500, 15 million rather is just fine. It takes a little longer the higher you put it. Just want to make sure everything is the same as your original project. You want to make sure that your audio is as high as it can go, and you want to make sure your rendering quality is best. That's important right there. It can really screw with stuff if you don't. And then once you have everything the way you want it, again, you can tweak all the settings you want. Just type something up here. I have normal rendering, and hit save. Then OK. So whatever you're going to use, usually, like I like this one, and then your template will always be there, and you can select it, and it'll always, be ready to go. And then you can just hit save when you're finally ready to go. But the idea is the values have to match up between your properties and your rendering, because otherwise when you set certain things up, when it renders at a certain height and it's different from your project's height, things won't look the same like they do on your preview screen. Okay, for the next part we're going to watch a little clip here from my last video, and then I'm going to go over how I did everything, and you should be able to understand how to do the same in any situation. Okay, moving on to seeds. There's actually a large number of ways that you can avoid this ability. You can stay out and ice block before he starts his cycle, which if you come out early is a little dangerous because everyone else is immune to damage, thus he'll be the only target. Or again ice block, but just wait until you get the seed debuff and stay out so that you don't explode on anyone. But the easiest and coolest way to avoid it, while also saving your ice block, is to invis immune the ability. To do so, look here. His seeds have 2 more seconds on the cast, and yet you're only trapped in the cyclone for 1. So as soon as you're free, you go invis, and you completely avoid the debuff. Okay, that short scene incorporated pretty much everything you need to know about video editing to make things look pretty clean, pretty professional, without going into extreme detail, opening up After Effects, and adding special effects to things. Okay, we'll take a closer look at that in the original project. We'll swap the preview to quarter, just doesn't take too long to load. And over here, you can see there's a frame with my ice block image. You see there's a frame with my seeds image, a small overlay for the chat there. Then there's the regular image you're seeing in the background, which is actually just an image, not part of the video. I'll show you that. You can see me talking down here, multiple voice recordings, and the music that is playing in the background. First, let's talk about how to get some of these overlay images, the tooltips, anything, even the chat overlay here. Just go anywhere. Let's see here, go to Wowhead. Let's see, some random ability. There you go. There's an ability. Hit Control, print screen, copies it to your clipboard, the whole screen. You can open up Paint, paste it in there, then come over here, select it, crop it. Then you can, let's see, save it, close that, go back to the project. Now say I want to put Fireball in here. Let's do that then. We'll go over and take the Fireball picture, take it over here, just drag it and drop it. You know, you can import it into your project media and whatnot, or you can drop it in, both work. Now you can see Fireball is kind of chilling here. It's on your screen. Now it doesn't look quite as good as Searing Seeds, so let's make it look a little less 2D. Go over to Video Effects, Borders, and as far as borders go, you do this for mostly everything. Leaving it just flat like that usually looks pretty terrible. So if you want it to kind of pop out like the other tooltip there, go over, drag a bevel, just drop it on top of that frame, and then that looks, you know, a little odd, so we'll just go lower that down. There, see, that looks pretty good. Looks a little bit more 3D. Or like you see how the video from a moment ago looked and how this overlay looks. You can also do like a soft edge. That's more to kind of like, you know, phase it on to your original, but you know, we don't want that, so we'll just get rid of that. Okay, now for some motion tracking and event tracking and positioning images on your screen. It all starts over here with your track motion button, which is at the beginning of your track. And if you're doing one log frame and you all want everything to appear like in a certain area, like say you want like a small video clip up in the upper left hand corner, you know, you'd move it like up there or whatever. But most tracks you'll have multiple images or multiple things going on, which is the point at which you start setting keyframes. So you go over here, say you want a keyframe out, like over here, so you'll double click, it'll automatically add one. And you see we just made one here, see it right here. We'll just drag that over to the start of the Fireball. And from there, we'll open that up again. And you can take that keyframe, which tells, you know, what position you want the frame to be in at the time. So you can move your Fireball around, you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. It's pretty important to remember that when you add keyframes and such, you make sure there is some keyframes at the end of like your last image or whatever, because see how I added a keyframe over here? If there's nothing, see, we'll delete those. If there's nothing between this keyframe and that keyframe, it'll just start tracking towards, like, you know, the new one from the old one. So in my other picture, where I had, you know, Domo pulled out, my blink pulled out, it looked different compared to when I started deleting keyframes. See, it's in different spots now. So yeah, be very careful. Make sure you always, you know, add a keyframe at the end of things and the beginning of things, or some other way you like to do it. So you can, you know, watch that. Now, what I kind of hinted at is tracking motion, moving it around, and like animating it, because like, you know, from here, the start of this one to like the end of it, it was like moving a little because I added a keyframe. So, okay, we have Fireball, right? This is our first keyframe at the beginning. We're just kind of throw it over here. And we have a keyframe at the end here, and it's in a different position. And we'll take that and like throw it over to the left a little bit. And now if we preview this down to quarter or whatever, you can see that it's starting to move over there. This is the video playing, it's moving. That's how you animate things, just like the Searing Seeds from before. See? Talk, 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 blah, 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 and then up it goes. Okay, so you understand adding keyframes now, hopefully, and it's just the same principle for tracking other things with keyframes. Like over here in the same project, we go over here and I zoom in. Okay, now the way you do that is the individual file, the individual image or video or whatever, there's this little box thing here which is event, pan, or crop. You click it, you open it up, and you can see it gives you a timeline, which is as long as the picture or event, and you can see keyframes here. Now, just like the other thing, except now you're editing, you know, what your screen looks at rather than where your image is positioned. So say I want to zoom in on something, right? I have a keyframe here that, you know, from the beginning to when I want to start zooming in, there's another keyframe that's exactly equal. So it plays, you know, goes over, blah blah blah, stays the same. Now I want to start zooming in, and I have another keyframe here that is really close up. You know, I've just moved it in, you know, added one, and from here to here, you know, obviously it'll change. So zooms in, and then I have the exact same frame, so you just copy it, and you would go over here and you paste it, and at this point's where I want it to start moving. So I have another one here, again, which is zoomed in. I just, you know, took this, wiggled it down here, you know, copy, paste, put it over here, and it'll stay in the area over there or whatever. And then the original where it goes back out. Another thing to note about the motion tracking and the cropping and whatnot is you can also save presets. So we're going to go over here to the project I'm working on now, which is this, obviously, where there's a bunch of frames here. And I have the bottom of my screen recording and the top of my screen recording. Don't really like that, so I'm going to go over here, and we'll get rid of the top a little bit there. Yeah, get rid of the bottom. Looks good. And then I will just save this as like something, and then hit save. And then over here, we just go to the same one. Another picture, you know, it's not the same. Open this up, and up at the top, you can scroll down to the thing you saved it as, and now it's exactly the same as your other frame. And when making videos, doing things like that, it's important that, you know, all your border sizes for the same size images are the same. All the crops, all the motion tracking and whatnot, it looks uniform. Uniform things look good to people, it looks professional. So it's also an easy way to not have to click every single image and go through and, you know, come in, pull it down, push it up, tweak it. Just save it and apply it to each one of them. Pretty quick, pretty simple. Okay, we'll go back to my other project now, and over here we have a frame where everything is moving slower than normal. And the way you do that, you speed things up, slow things down, is select your image and hit Control, and then just near the edge, move your mouse over it, click, hold down, and you can drag it to make it smaller, you know, make it go faster, or you can drag it, make it longer, make it go slower. So that's how you do slow motion and you speed things up. Okay, the last thing we really need to talk about is voice recording and how you want to go about doing it. So the way you do it in Sony Vegas is, say, we'll add a audio track, and over here there's looks like a little recording button, and you just aim it for recording. You should already have some kind of default you know, recording device that pops up. If not, it'll prompt you and say like, hey, what do you want to record from your mic or whatever. Now you see, you can see the levels here, and, you know, whatever, put it somewhere you want to record. And up here there's another little record button. You'll hit record and it'll start recording down here. It'll be saving wherever you tell it to save. There'll be a little prompt for that as well. And then you can pause, play it. You'll hear it. When listening to it, if you think you sound too quiet or anything like that, you can come over here, adjust the sound incoming levels, you know, reduce it. It goes down to 40 up to like plus 12. If you've maxed it out, you can't hear it anymore, just go over, turn your master volume up, you know, adjust everything accordingly. And don't be afraid to pre-render things, you know, select a small little area, go to render, and just, you know, render loop region only. You know, render a few, you can do it in low quality and whatever. Listen to the sound, because sound's pretty important to most people. If they don't like what they hear, they'll pretty much turn it off before they even look at what you're showing them. Okay, those are pretty much the things you need to know. You can combine them in multitudes of ways to pretty much get anything you're thinking of onto the screen. The most important thing is to be creative and problem solve things. Like, say you want to do something special, like you want the background to fade out. That's something I wanted to do. I wanted to make it darker for a certain phase. Let's see, let's go over here to my walkthrough thing. You know, when I showed you that image to you, the background got darker, and I hadn't really done that before, and the way I did that was, you know, I went over here and say, let's single this frame out, which is this solo button, and, you know, click here. Turn your preview up to full, and this is another thing you can take note on. There's a little save button here, which is a snapshot. It'll completely save the entire frame, whatever you're working on. So, you know, you can just call it whatever and save it to your desktop. It'll appear in your project media over here. You can drag it down, and that's basically also how you do, you know, still frames, you know, like you paused it and whatnot. So you take your little frame that you have and you can stretch out or shrink it as much as you want. This is basically how long you're, quote, pausing the video for. And what I did with that was I just kind of mixed it in with the previous image, and I lowered the opacity down to make it pretty dark, and I had that under the initial picture. So pulling it out of there, it looks like, you know, we went from light to dark. Okay, those are pretty much all the basics you need to know. You can apply them to everything, and the biggest thing about editing and getting your point across is being creative, figuring out how to tweak things and get what you're looking for on the screen. You know, don't forget to go back and add transitions, which is, you know, you go over here, you see an image, you take it, in the end you drag it over. You can, you know, tweak it. You can change the fade type. You know, once you're happy with everything, make sure that your preview up here is back to full, because sometimes it likes to default to whatever quality you have for your preview. And then, you know, save it, and save often, because there's nothing more annoying than losing 2 hours worth of work. Set it to render, loop region only, make sure everything's set up, hit save, and don't be afraid to watch it, see one thing that's wrong, and re-render for another 2 hours, because, you know, it'll take another 2 hours, but if you have to look at that same video for the next 2 months, you'll be very mad at yourself. Okay, I know this has been a little long, so thank you for sitting through it. That's about all you need to know as far as editing goes. I will show you one more thing that's kind of like a bonus, another easy way to get material. Let's see, let's go over to YouTube and let's see, art and strengths, something like that. Yeah, that's good. Take that, you know, find a song you like, look it up on YouTube, and there is this wonderful little program called a YouTube downloader. Copy the URL, go to that, paste it in there, download it, highest quality, all that. Then you can get it on your computer, just drag it into, you know, whatever. So again, little bonus material, quick, easy way that I get most of my, you know, sounds, background sounds. So it's the internet, you can always find something, you can always find images, you can always find music. If you want it, there is definitely a way to get it. So again, creativity, keep looking. If you have any deeper questions, something like that, feel free to send me an email from my YouTube page or eventually on the L2P forums. Again, this is Fullmasta. Thank you for watching. I hope you got most of my points, even though I kind of rambled a little bit. Keep making content, and let's work together to make L2P TV a great place.